News and police helicopter cover-ups for October 18th. At 8:09 a.m., there was a large helicopter in the Copter pocket across the street. And at this point in time, they were still throwing in cover-ups for the fire helicopters, where they set the fire in Camp Pendleton and then flew helicopters parallel with my street over my house, which makes no sense because Mission Lake, it would make a huge triangle. They'd have to fly 2 miles out to my house and then back to Camp Pendleton, and I said that. So then they set a fire in Laguna Niguel, which makes my house a perfect midpoint. But then they also flew them parallel down my street, which makes no sense. The copter should have flown diagonally over my house. So they set the fires just like all the rest of the fires. And so it was either a large white blue or the large white wine red and white, in order to cover up for either of those. So there was a theme of the police helicopter, the large white blue fake police helicopter, cover up for the large military copter that they painted two-tone that they intended to fly over my house to cover up for the Black Hawk threat, or the fire one. And I wasn't able to identify it because it was the morning and they made sure to keep it away from me in the haze. At 10:10 a.m., the police copter flew down the Copter pocket right to left if you're looking across the street from me, and then he went up the park, and then he crossed out of the park and came out before he got to Montevideo Elementary School, made a left, crossed over Olivera Street, and then crossed over 24092, where they had the fake transformer fire, where the dart originated when I was underneath him, and I was explaining all their cover-ups, and then he took off. And then he mobbed back down my street and then out over the park. And so he mobbed back down like the opposite side of the street from me after he went down there and turned around, and it was really conspicuous, and I wasn't fully aware. People were ahead of me for a little bit on the police copter. And so he did that because he was covering up for the event at 11 at night when they led me out and tried to spotlight me, and then when I left, when he was turning the spotlight on, he chased me back to my house. So they incorporate these straight darts back to my house then as chase cover-ups. And so it was basically a large circle that included the October 16th event, the chase back to my house, and then the transformer fire house circles, and also the two-story house circles, the ones that I've labeled the Amber Alert because he always did them there. So a large circle, like the themes recently, a large circle that incorporates all the smaller circles. Therefore, all the smaller circles are permissible because they're just part of his regular routine. So they either hit something, an event, they make it part of a straight line and call it that it's part of his routine line, or they use a large circle to incorporate smaller circles. At 10:23 a.m., the police copter went right to left in the Copter pocket, and at 10:42, a jumbo went sideways across my roof, and then the large white blue copter was in the Copter pocket, and it went right to left if you're looking across the street from me, and then it turned right behind 24191, and I wasn't fully aware of the military copter cover-ups yet. I became aware of it when they flew a military copter backwards and made a turn at the house very conspicuously in front of me. But at the same time as he was turning right before that actually, they flew a large jumbo jet across my roof, and so it seemed like that was possibly either a decoy or an excuse for his movement, which doesn't make sense because, well, firstly, it's tying it to the jumbo jets, and secondly, they mix up that situation, the turn, with location, something about a fake hill that they've been trying to sell. There's no large hill there, it's a small grade, very small. So they try to say that there's a hill and therefore they all turn there, but they've also had instances where they fly jumbo jets down and have planes turn, or Cessnas fly at the helicopter, so it's situational and locational. It makes no sense. At 7:39 p.m., the helicopter was behind the two-story house across the street with only the red flashing light and at a higher altitude, and that's because after October 16th, they started flying around with no lights basically and just at a higher altitude so that it wouldn't register on my phone, because everyone's starting point is my phone, which is just so far from the truth. You could fly 10 military helicopters over and it would sound like 1/20th the sound, and you wouldn't be able to identify them very well. And then they're telling them where to go. For instance, the jumbo jet event recently, they set the fire, then they sent the jumbo jets down, and my phone is tapped, plus it's broken and doesn't record well. And so they were telling the pilots where to turn and then to turn their headlights off. and then turn them back on. And then so the starting point obviously then is I have like terrible videos, and they're like, oh well, it's just his word, and then they move on from that starting point, and that's like not even, it's just bogus. It makes no sense at all. And then also they didn't post anything on the police blogger for the October 16th event. They said that it was his routine, when really he was trying to spotlight me, and he's a lunatic. He was having some kind of insane neurotic moment, personal interaction. I'm a civilian, and they're military police, and they have no business doing what they've done, but they're nuts. It's a personal interaction. For instance, the last jumbo jet event, the guy wanted to give like a kick in the nuts. He flew the last jumbo, the only one that flew in this particular line, over my house, over the driveway, so that he could have a similar video of the August 1st incident, the original plane. And then he ended it. They didn't have any more videos, and that was the only plane that flew in that line. And he's like, haha, I'm so smart. And that's the thing. It's like he's pitting his will against mine, like a pitting of intellect, like he needs to have some kind of victory. And like, that's fucking nuts, because I have no power at all. I'm a civilian with a broken phone. And I mean, if anyone has that much power, they can control everything. Like, that's not intelligence. And this dude has like a personal vendetta with me. Like, I didn't want to participate in the first place. And so these are some of the events, because I'm trying to highlight the psychosis and the characterization, and then also the events, because it gives credence to the personal interaction, which is why I'm saying it. I'm also talking crap because it's true, but it's the credence to the personal interaction. And so they put nothing on the police blogger for the October 16th event, and they just fly the helicopter at a higher altitude and near that house, and then that covers it up because it's on the same line. Therefore, sometimes he does circles there. And also they had events where there was some kind of ruckuses on Oliveira for the next couple days in Deseo, and then they had a theft around this date, the 18th or the 19th on Oliveira. They just posted one. So it's like, oh, well, maybe we had a police event. They didn't post it. There was nothing like the fake suspicious person posted on the 16th. And then all of a sudden there was a robbery. That way it gives them the opportunity to have multiple excuses. At 7:41, he was at Solero Deseo with a small flasher, and he turned right. So he was crossing left to right, and then he turned right. And then there was a Cessnas with red flashing lights doing circles all around Geronimo Cordillera, gradually moving towards Geronimo Alicia. And the copter was there at the same time behind the houses, more or less hovering but going really slow, and throwing sound to cover up for October 16th, because they tried to say that that was a Cessna then doing circles on October 16th, and that the helicopter was just somewhere nearby making sound. And they submitted all that fabricated evidence, and then recently, I'm recording this on the 30th, they started changing the lights of the helicopter because they submitted fabricated evidence with incorrectly colored lights on the Cessnas. At 7:45, he came back through the copter pocket, right to left after looking across the street, and he was low, and he had lowly lit, low intensity white and red flashers. So they changed the lights, so that means that's a second helicopter. And they started doing that. They would change the lights so that it was multiple helicopters. I watch them turn around. Doesn't care at all that I would narrate that. They should fully leave and then come back, because then I can't say it with certitude. But so then he did that, so trying to make it like it's a second helicopter. And then at 8:32 to 9:20, there were Cessnas with red lights, similar to the police copter, trying to sell that. And they were hitting all of his same spots that they've created, this fake routine route. And they're also doing turns and U-turns and circles the same size as of the diameter of the police copter turns, all over the houses of October 16th, my house, the end of my street, two-story house, Geronimo Alicia, the park, and they were trying to hit all the same lines and make it like that. And I have other events later in this week where they fly exactly in the same line, right after the helicopter, before and back and forth, and it's so obvious, it's ridiculous. So, and they also had Cessnas harassing me this entire time so that I couldn't record it or see or figure out what was going on. Civilians in Cessnas. And so at 10:14, he flew left to right in the copter pocket, and then did a left curve at 24191 and continued out towards Geronimo Alicia intersection. So that's a cover up for the military copter turn behind 24191 that tried to escape my frame. And I wasn't fully aware of the turn excuse at this point in time, because when I became aware was when they flew the military helicopter backwards and turned left, and it was really conspicuous, and also it was backwards, and that's how they do stuff. So there's a certain point in time when I became aware. So this is good that I'm reviewing this later on, because it shows how long they were doing it for.